Before I open up the hearing for the Barnstable Conservation Commission, I would like to ask George to do a roll call for the quorum purpose.
Abadili.
Present.
Foster.
Present.
Gilmore present. Hearn.
Present.
Lee.
Present.
Moran.
Present.
Sampu.
Present.
Administrator Darcy Carley.
Present.
Staff member Kim Kavanaugh.
Present.
We have a quorum and we are all set to go, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and or Chapter 237 of the Code of Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, December the 6th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. for the applications of Scott Kambach and Jeffsa Owen, James White and Patricia O'Brien, David J. and Catherine G. McKay, Judith G. Allen, Christian Camps Meeting Association, Thomas N. Hines Trust of Thomas and Joanne Hines Trust Agreement. The hearing will be held remotely as televised on Channel 18. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointment by sending email request to Darcy Curley at 230 South Street, Hyannis. This meeting is being recorded and transmitted by the Information Technology Department of the Town of Barnstable on Channel 18. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, anyone else desiring to make such a recording or transmissions, please let Channel 18 know I know. Hearing none, this evening's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda, next to each application is the amount owed to the Town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisements. Please send your checks to Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participation. The Conservation Commission's public hearing will be held by remote participation as a result of an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed by the Lieutenant Governor on July 16, 2022, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. 1. The hearing will be televised via Channel 18. Second, real-time public comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom link 876-6169-2064 or use the toll-free phone number 888-475-4499 as shown on the agenda. Third, the public can also email the comments to darcy.curley@town.barnstable.ma.us at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. Please note, under the NOI tonight, the applicant for the Christian Camp Meeting Association has requested for a continuance without testimony to December the 20th, 2022. The first item on the agenda tonight is the executive sessions. Next, this is the executive session for the purpose of discussing litigation strategy with respect to the following 3 pending appeals. If the chair determines that an open meeting session shall be or could be detrimental to the Commission's litigation positions. 1, to the Department of Environmental Protection, and 2, for the Barnstable Superior Court by Tobias Wellows et al. At 25 and 35 Coal Lane, Austerville, as shown on the Assessors Map 052, Parcel 009, Map 053, Parcel 012-002. The first one is the construction of the wave break and planting. Is the DEP SE3 number SE3-5976 and Barnstable Superior Court Doc 2272 CV00354. Pier. The second is the Pier Project, Barnstable Superior Court Doc 2272 CV00319. I would declare that this is the discussions of the litigation strategy in open sessions with respect to the pending appeal by Tobias Wellows et al. At 25 and 35 Coal Lane, Austerville, to 1, construction of the wave break and plants under the Massachusetts DEP SE3-5976 and Barnstable Superior Court 2272 CV00354, and 2, Pier Project under Barnstable Superior Court Doc 2272 CB 00319 may have detrimental effect on the litigation positions of the commissions. And therefore, I ask for the motions to go into the executive sessions. Following the executive session, the commission will reconvene in open sessions. I recognize the clerks to make the motion.
I move to go into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss litigation strategy with respect to the pending appeal by Tobias Wello et al. To Mass DEP and Barnstable Superior Court regarding 25 and 35 Cove Lane, Osterville, based on the chair's declaration that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the commission, and will reconvene in open session following the conclusion of the executive session.
I second the motions. Roll call.
Abedili?
Aye.
Foster?
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Moran?
Aye.
Sampu?
Aye.
That's unanimous, Mr. Chairman. We're going into executive session at 6:36.
Thank you. we have 3 RDA. The first one is Scott Kombach and Jeffsa Owens, and proposed 15 by 5 additions to northwest of house at 81 Kivier Lane, Barnstable, as shown in the Assessors Map 351, parcel 012. Brandon,
Yes, I'm here.
do you want to go over your projects or you just want to take questions?
I can go over real quickly. Introduce myself. My name is Brendan Lowney from Lewis and Weldon. We're representing, as the contractor, Scott Callback and Tiasha Owen for 81 Kevaney Lane, parcel ID 351012. Our RDA is, it's a small addition. It's an expansion of the existing structure. It's going out about 5.5 feet and 15 feet wide on the west side of the property. And that is pretty much, I could take any questions if you'd like. We did provide the site plan for your review as well.
Any questions from the commissioner, Bill?
Yeah, you know, on the face of it, it seems like, you know, a no-brainer. Yes, this is a fine project and all of that. But I'm reminded of a project that we had, I don't know what, I got a couple, maybe 3 months ago. And Darcy ended up saying, well, if you approve this without mitigation, you've got this minor impact, if you will, on the 50 to 100, and there's no mitigation. Is that something you want to do? And I'm wondering, is that, I don't know, this is a question for the applicant or his representative or the commission. Is this a project that needs mitigation? Because there is a 0 to 50 buffer, and it seems to be, you know, has a house right there on the other side of the street. So I'm just wondering about that.
So if you look at where we're 95 feet from the buffer zone, there is a street. So Cove Lane cuts across that first. You have the house, Cove Lane, and then you have the wetlands. So it's actually on both sides. So yes, I mean, it is within the 100-foot setback. Originally, we mapped it out, and the original plan, it was 105. But then we did it again, it came to 95. So, and that's when I talk about within the 100 feet, that's the shrub swamp portion.
Right. Can Darcy, you know, I mean, comment on that? I don't know how we deal with such
this is okay. So we have our guidelines on what we expect people to file, and additions based on the size less than, I think we had one less than 400 square feet falling between 50 and 100 feet. We do not require, I mean, we state they can come in and try to submit this as a request for determination. So it's based on what the commission felt comfortable all these years as far as a request for determination. It's a minor size addition. So that is why it came in as a request for determination, and request for determinations, we don't require the mitigation. With that being said, the guidelines do have a paragraph at the top that, you know, it's no guarantee when you file an application based on these guidelines. The commission can go out and look at the site and then determine that, you know, no, we want this to come in as a notice of intent. But for many years, you know, the commission believed that something 400 feet or less, an addition this distance away, could come in as a request for determination.
So if you calculate the total area, I mean, 15 feet by 5.5.
Only 82.
82.5.
Yeah. It's small. It's a de minimis project.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Larry?
Brendan, the only question I have is that this is just on the west side, as you say. It wasn't staked, but I figured out that it was basically where the front door is. I presume you're just creating like a new foyer or some type of entrance from that door. Is that correct?
Well, actually, it's going to be in the interior space is going to be a half bathroom and laundry. The first floor currently doesn't have it. Think of the first
Oh,
floor.
really? So it's not going to be an entrance like it has, like the house is designed for it to be.
Correct.
That's fine.
Part, yeah, that part of Cove Lane, they really use Kevanny Lane as the front of the house. So
Okay, that's fine. And
it just happens to have two frontage.
well, you've got at least two frontages. It's a really cool house.
It is.
And,
it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And so my comment would be is that the slope of the land away from the house going in a westerly direction is not steep at all. Maybe about 25, 30 feet away, it starts to drop off. But I don't see any adverse impact by having a structure added to it. I think, as Darcy summarized, when an RDA is filed, it's not a presumption as much as it's a reference to the fact that this is not a major project in terms of the impact. And in this case, there appears to be absolutely no impact. So I think in that sense, while Bill has raised the question, I think that this one is very appropriate to have approved as filed as a negative determination with respect to the fact that this is not a significant addition to the house. And the other side of the house where it's being worked on the patio is even further away and outside the area. So that's the way I'd look at it. So.
Thank you, Larry. Louis?
You're muted, Louise.
Thanks. I have no problem with the proposed project, but I did notice that just as the level of the topography begins to drop precipitously a little bit east of the project, there are 2 or 3 pipes that are coming out of the top of that bank that are presumably draining water down toward the resource area, which I do have a problem with, and maybe someone could follow up on it.
Are you referencing you said the east side? Was it the west side or the east side? The project is on the west side.
I'm talking about east of the project site. At the
okay.
top of the crest of the bank, right at the very top, it's just going right out over into the depression.
Okay.
So I think.
Do you know what are those pipes, Brendan?
I don't. On the east side, I don't know if you're talking near the barn or the garage.
I'm talking about if you stand at the front door where you're going to put your addition.
Okay, the west side. Yep.
Think about the top of the bank, so to speak, right there, slightly east to the front door, probably where the writing I can't read it at this point. There are 2 or 3 pipes that come out that are empty. I mean, I presume they're there to empty water down into down onto that road and maybe onto the wetland.
Okay, that I don't. I'd have to be on site. I don't know what exactly you're referencing.
I don't see that as an eastern. That's a western view.
Yeah, it's a western view. Yeah.
With your back to the house and looking.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. No, well, you know what I'm talking about because we have the map here, right? I guess it's actually a little bit north.
So if it's north,
I'm looking at your map, and north is pointing from left to right, correct? And I'm saying to the right of your project, there are pipes that are coming out of that top of the hill. Fairly new looking pipes, actually. They're,
that is most likely a pre-existing condition. Scott and Tiasha just bought this property about 8 months ago. So I'm more than happy to take a second look. My apologies. I don't know exactly what you're referencing, but I'd have to take a closer look.
Yeah, they're pretty obvious.
And you take a look, and if it is whether it's a roof runoff, if it is a rule runoff, you should connect to the dry well. So,
Yeah.
any more
I mean,
question on these applications? Go ahead, Brandon.
I was gonna say, while you're talking, I'm gonna look for pictures I have on that side. So I might have something, I'm not sure.
Except this is so de minimis, Tom, I think we should.
Yeah. It's 82 feet away.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's so small.
Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Cavadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. The
Thank you
next
very much.
RDA, the next RDA is James White and Patricia O'Brien to install stone riser steps at 50 Fox Island Road, Marston's Mill, as shown in the Assessors Map 096, parcel 001. John.
Good evening, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering, representing the applicants. Pulled up the plan that was submitted with this RDA. We got about a 4-acre parcel, and they're looking to create some stone risers like was shown in this picture off to the side of the plan, coming down off the patio, skirting the 100-foot buffer. And I think it's pretty straightforward. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any question from the commissioner? Seeing none. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None. Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Roll call.
Sampu,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Foster,
Aye.
Cavadili.
Aye.
That is unanimous.
Thank you. The last RDA of the evening is David J. and Catherine G. McCade to permit a shed and manage invasive species 64 and 70 Short Beach Road, Centerville, as shown on the Assessors Maps 26206, parcel 037 and 038. John?
Good evening, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting again. Also in the meeting room is the property owner. I will bring up a plan. Primarily, this project is for a shed. We had also in the application requested to include some invasives work. We have been in discussions on the shed with staff for some time. The invasives, in seeing the application, the staff was a little uncomfortable with the scale of that and asked us to take that off. So we have. So this is a revised plan dated today. And we had also asked us to have the salt marsh flag to make sure that there was nothing above it, which we did. So we are down to just a simple shed. It's in accordance with your guidelines to be filed as an RDA. We pulled it as far towards the street as we can, keeping in mind that the street layout is actually this 16-foot wide way line on our property. So with that, I think we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Question from the commissioner, Bill?
Yeah, you're going to take out a lot of bittersweet. I was over at the site, and it's great to take all that out. My question is, you're going to plant grasses, wild grasses. Is this going to be you're not going to mow it? I'm trusting this is just, you're trying to get rid of invasive species and leave an unmowed meadow. Is that right?
So the original sort of master invasives was that was staff felt that was too much for this application. You will very likely see us back under a notice of intent at some point for that scope of work, which will be better defined and better conditioned. So at this point, we are only talking about kind of setting ourselves a limit of work about 5 feet around the shed that would be grass.
So this is a revised plan to the Kim sent this out this afternoon.
I guess I missed that.
Yeah, I sent it out. I talked to John late at the end of the day, so I was the one to send it out like at 4 o'clock. So sorry you didn't get to see it, but it was one of these it was one of these last minute things where I'm learning we do not want to continue a request for determination. So we are trying the best to get a revision done that the commission could vote on tonight. So it was a last minute thing.
So the management of the invasive species is out of this project. This is only for the shed. Larry?
My only thought was, is that I can see that there is a basis for filing a notice of intent as to the invasives, but I can also see that the plan may be satisfied with an RDA. I would rather give John O'Day the option to if he wants to try an RDA and support it, leave that up to him. Otherwise, he'd file the NOI. In other words, the withdrawal of that from this doesn't require him to do something else. So that's the way I'm looking at it.
I think we should stay with just keeping this RDA as the shed.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Of the as the NOI.
Yeah, I agree. If he wants to.
Any other comment from the commissioner? Can we get any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this project as revised? This is a revised plan dated December the 6th as a negative determination.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili? You're muted, John.
Apologize for that, George. Aye.
Sampu?
Aye.
Moran?
Aye.
Foster?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Byrne?
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck. We have 3 NOI tonight. The first one is Judith D. Allen's proposed maintenance / replacement of existing stair and to modify and expand the existing pier at 322 Willow Road, Marston's Mill, as long as the Census Map 082, parcel 021. John?
Yes, John O'Day, Sullivan Engineering Consulting, again representing the applicants. This is a project site that's on Middle Pond. I can bring up the plan. We were before you probably a year and change ago when these property owners purchased it for some vista pruning and cleaning up in the backyard. There's an existing set of stairs down the slope to the pond. And there's an existing small permitted pier down there. And so we're looking to have more access to the water. And so the project as proposed is to do this sort of standard seasonal aluminum pier extending out from the bottom of those stairs. I think it's of the size that's consistent with the others that we can see in the aerials around Middle Pond. The wide, the L was, or the L, the end is meeting your size requirements. We're in the middle. We have, check the depth here. We have 2.5 feet of water at the end of it. I don't see a problem. You know, the boats being able to provide separation. I think with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Larry?
I don't have a question as much as Tom. The agenda says 322 Wheeler Road, but it's 332 according to the application. So we may want to make sure that it's the correct house. Otherwise, it's I would like to pass along, John, to your clients how cool those steps were going down. Even for me, I could walk easily, and they're really a great set of stairs. I presume that might have been done in the earlier filing. I don't know. But I came away thinking, boy, I'm really glad I could walk on those without a rail. So otherwise, no comment.
Thank you, Larry, for pointing it out on the drawing. It mentioned about 332, and on the advertisement it's 322.
Yep.
So it could be 332 Willow. Any other comment on this from the commissioner? John?
Just a quick question. The compliance would be the 12-inch thing. Do we need a boat spec in this? I can't remember if we require specking a boat on a freshwater. Darcy, do we require specking a boat?
You know, we have, based on our guidelines, it just says that there's supposed to be the foot clearance.
Right.
And sometimes we do ask the consultant, what is the applicant considering here? But being that these are freshwater guidelines, it's kind of loosey-goosey. So, I guess, John, what is the boat going to be?
I don't know specifically. I think that these ponds, Middle Pond is, I believe, one of those that's limited by the town and the state to being a 9.9 horsepower. So I think people have, a little pontoon boat that puts around.
Yeah, I think that's right, John. I was going to say, I think there's a 10 horsepower, 9.9 horsepower maximum. Yeah, I think.
I don't have a specific, but I think it would be.
It's okay with me.
You think we should ask thing for that for the file? I mean, just for information?
There is a 9.9 requirement.
Yeah.
I don't think we need it.
I don't think, where you can limit like that, Tom, I don't think you need it.
Okay. Any other question from the commissioner? None? Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None? Could I have a motion to approve this project as submitted?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
The next NOI is Christian Camp Meeting Associations, proposed dock and stairway reconstructions at 160 Lake Elizabeth Drive, Centerville, as shown on the Assessors Map 226, parcel 137. The applicant has requested for a continuance without testimony to December the 20th, 2022. Could I have a motion to continue this applications without testimony to December the 20th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. The last out NOI is Thomas N. Hines Trust of Thomas and Joanne Hines Trustee Agreement to demolish a portion of existing dwelling located at 22 Great Bay Road and to construct a pool and patio with all associated appurtenances, including grading onto 324 Bridge Street, Osterville, as shown on the Assessors Map 093, parcel 017 and 018. This is John.
Again, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting. I believe the property owners may also be in the meeting room. I'll pull up the plan. This is 22 Great Bay Road, Little Island. We were before you in the spring or early summer for a septic upgrade at this property that incorporated one of the new nitro innovative tanks. And that system has been installed. The system did require some mounding, which raised the yard out there around 3 feet. I think it was kind of surprising to the owners when it was going in. But as they've spent the time there and overlooking the property, they also control the property off of Bridge Street, which is 324. It's made them revisualize how they use the properties. And so the project as proposed is to remove a portion of the house, and we did color this up and send it into the staff so that you could see it better, but removing this portion of the house and constructing a small pool in that area. The square footages end up being a slight reduction in the 50-foot buffer, and then a slight increase in the 50 to 100. But we have done the mitigation calculations and provided the mitigation along the salt marsh edge of the property. We've kept this, I think is reasonably close to the house as we can. The water's set 8 feet off of it. And we're also kind of pulled reasonably as landward as we can, trying to work with that newly upgraded septic system. I think, and the project also does include helping to feather that mounded grade back towards the house at number 324, just so it's not so obvious. So that ground in there is coming up, 2 or 3 feet, sort of match what the septic had been. That work is mostly outside of the buffer zone, but still all of Little Island is land subject to coastal storm flowage. I think with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. Question from the commissioner. John?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to look to my guru, Dr. Sampu, for his thoughts. But at first, when I went out there, he said, oh my God, he's putting in a swimming pool that's partially within the 0 to 50 and very, very, very close to the salt marsh. There's not a lot of vegetation between the pool and the salt marsh. And he said, how could we ever approve this? Removing part of the existing house, it's still an existing house, so you'd still have the same usage, I assume. So I was ready to say, boy, I don't want to approve this thing. And then I looked at the mitigation being offered, and I said, and Bill Hearn, don't get angry with me, I looked at trying to balance this thing out and said, okay, on balance, by slightly removing part of the existing dwelling, although it still, I assume, would be used as a dwelling, and the mitigation, from an environmental point of view, is this a positive impact? I think I lean towards yes, but I sure would love to hear Peter's analysis of it, or Bill's.
If I could just jump in for 1 second, I also, for those of you who didn't make it to the site, it may not be so obvious from this plan, but this marsh is sort of a marsh cove that we're actually, 450 feet buffered to West Bay, which is this property here. So this is not like a marsh right on the edge of the bay.
But it is a salt marsh, right, John?
It's still a wetland resource, no doubt.
Yeah, okay. So anyways, my thinking was, on balance, how do I come out in this? Is this a win-win from an environmental point of view or not? And I thought maybe Peter would have some thoughts on it, that's all.
Thanks, John. Pete, do you want to say anything?
Yeah. John, can you speak as to the mitigation and the inclusion of woody vegetation?
I can. So the mitigation, we had sort of a mixture of all woody vegetation, inkberry, pasture rose, sweet fern. So those inkberries those will get up 5 or 6 feet. Also keeping in mind that we're sort of wooded already, I think, along this portion of the property. And I don't.
Yeah. So Abbo, the woody vegetation is definitely a benefit. Mr. O'Day, is there any vertical complexity? Something higher than an inkberry? Because that would, again, just as we're looking at the balance here, you know, you're removing a bunch of the invasives, you're getting woody vegetation in there, and if we can increase the habitat value with some vertical complexity, you've got my vote.
It's not a massive area, but, you know, width-wise, but could we find a place to get a cedar in there? I'm sure we could work with them to do that. And
Yeah.
I don't want it to be forgotten that they also, you know, without even thinking of this
We got the AI.
Did the IA, which is probably fucking 90% of the nitrogen that would have otherwise been coming from this problem.
Excuse me, but I wanted to comment, Mr. Hines. Thank you for putting it in. I think that's an incredible benefit to the environment. Well done.
What? Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that.
We are trying to make this really comfortable for us.
Thank you. Louise?
Unless I'm mistaken, I don't think that we put swimming pools in the 50-foot buffer generally. And if you look at the plan, it's great that this is going to be matched with presumably a 4-to-1 mitigation. Is it 4-to-1, John? Does it come out that way?
It's 3-to-1 because we're actually not adding anything within the 50-foot buffer. We're reducing in 50.
Oh, okay. But, you know, the pool is going to be there. It's hardscape for sure for a long time. And hopefully the mitigation will survive. But, you know, bad things happen in terms of invasives creeping in and so forth and so on. So I think that the hardscape is going to be more robust than the mitigation. And the other factor that I'm thinking is there is, in spite of the location of the septic system, there is a lot of room on this property where a pool could be put instead of it partially and significantly in the 50-foot buffer. So I am, I'm not feeling real in favor of this. I wouldn't, you know, presume to say they ought to turn the pool 180 degrees or move it back or where they would put it. But I think that there are an awful lot of options other than having this where it's positioned. So that's what my thinking is.
Thanks, Louise.
Just to respond to that, I think that in advising our clients, we're the first to tell people that this commission is very reluctant to grant waivers for pools. We felt that where this was different was we're removing building, which is, you know, just as permanent, if not more, and impactful on the resource. So I think that that's what gave us the comfort level of bringing this project forward.
Well, you know, I mean, this is an opportunity to actually get some hardscape out of the 50-foot buffer, which is wonderful. I mean, we don't often run into things like this. And yes, there have been many cases where we have taken out some hardscape and permitted putting more hardscape, such as in the form of a building in the same footprint, but this is not that kind of situation. And again, you know, this is a swimming pool. This is not living space. This is not, you know, the extra bedroom that you need for your mother-in-law or whatever. It's kind of a luxury item. And again, there's a lot of room remaining on this property. So just that's what I'm thinking. Thank you.
Thanks, Louise. Bill?
My general impression was Louise has me thinking though. I thought you basically are reducing the hardscape in the 0 to 50. I mean, there was a patio, there was building. And so therefore I felt like, well, okay, you know, they're basically not increasing it. I seem to generally go along with it, don't increase it over my dead body. And so they're not doing that. And there is this mitigation. And I thought, well, that's good. So I basically was inclined to think this was okay. And the fact that they had a nitro project was, you know, so much the better. I thought, okay, you know, so I've been inclined to like the project and be in favor of it. But Louise is now making me wonder if there is any way to make the pool move away from the 0 to 50. And I mean, I haven't looked at it from that standpoint, but is there a way of just, you know, nudging it back 10 feet or something? Is that a possibility? That would be preferable. So that's the question. Can that pool be moved back? Like,
so the problem that we have, and again, this pool was never even dreamed of until after the whole site was cleared and the septic went in, but we do now have this septic system here, and there are setbacks between a pool and a septic system required. There really isn't a lot of room on the other side of the house because of front yard setbacks to the road. And when you put that required setback to the septic system on the landward side of it too, what might seemingly walking around seem like a unlimited area, half of our property is taken up by the septic and that setbacks to it.
Okay, good, fair enough. I mean,
what about closer to the main house?
We set it 8 feet off. We had some discussions and sent around a sketch to staff. You know, we'd be nervous about this pool is going to be up at the grade of the septic, which is actually above the floor of the house. So we needed some space to keep the grade down low. So this pool is actually almost going to be like a sitting pool, like up above the level of the ground here against the house. I wouldn't be excited about digging 6 feet deep next to a 50-year-old house.
But... big building, yeah. Okay. Mary?
Thank you. I really disagree that there's other places that this pool could go. This is really a but-for situation. But for this new septic system, there'd be stronger arguments to position the pool somewhere else. It's also interesting that Mr. and Mrs. Hines own both properties. They own 324 and 22. So could a pitch be made that the pool be placed closer to the other house, but that puts it between the garage and the leach field, and that puts it dangerously close to the parameters of the septic system. Looking at the north end of the property towards the East Bay, there you've got a situation where they have eliminated patio within the 50. They're also looking at the fact that they have placed quite a bit of mitigation that wasn't there before. I think that this is a sensible project. I don't think the fact that it's described as a luxury feature or not an occupational purpose is irrelevant. I think that we're looking at the fact that this has been carefully thought out. There's going to be no adverse impact to the wetland to the north and east, and there's going to be improvement with the mitigation to the north, and I totally support it.
Thank you, Larry. George?
Yes, I agree with Larry that there's certainly no place to put the septic system or this pool, given the location of the septic system. I just go back to, and I hate to bring up 704, but in septic systems, but there's got to be some payback or benefits for somebody willing to put in an IA system, and in addition to do all the mitigation necessary in this case. So I applaud the Hines for doing that, and I'm in favor of this project.
Yeah,
Thank you, George. John?
Yeah, I agreeing with Peter that adding some height diversity is probably good to do, which I heard, John, you could take a look at that and do something along those lines. And again, I think if you look, I agree with Louise, we generally will not approve a pool within the 0 to 50. But in this case, what we are getting from an environmental point of view is significantly better than harmful. And therefore, again, Bill, on balance, I think it is a project that we should approve. The fact that he put in the other system, you know, lends us favorably towards the Hines family. That adds a little bit more. So I also am in favor of the project the way it's proposed.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing Peter, you're talking about, is it one tree or just vertical complexity?
Well, what might be visually pleasing is a very small grove of 3. I'm not expecting them all over the place, but a small grove of cedar trees, I think would be visually pleasing and at the same time provide some nice protective habitat in the wintertime and some food with the juniper berries and a little bit of vertical complexity.
Okay.
I have some questions.
Darcy?
Yeah, so John, one of the things I noticed, and I didn't pick up on this until now, is the salt marsh should have been flagged, not just per spring tide elevation. So I guess we can let it go this time, but these salt marshes need to be flagged and labeled on the plan. The mitigation area, is there currently a hedge where there is one of the clouds that show the mitigation? And is there any way that that particular cloud that I think has a hedge, it shows up really well on my paper plan? But
yeah, so I think that this part down here is an existing hedge of something. So
that hedge is is the hedge being a hedge? I know it's not something that's part of our planting list and everything, but would it make more sense to pick up that mitigation and put it where it's closest to the salt marsh edge on the corner there? You have right on the other side of the hay bales. I'd rather see the mitigation go there and leave the hedge that's currently there.
That makes sense, Darcy.
Yeah. And I think that probably the only reason that we didn't show plantings here was that it wasn't lawn before the septic system. But I think that, you know, I think it just makes sense to get rid of a hedge as part of this project and have it be a more sort of natural buffer. But if you wanted to extend this down along this corner, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that. It wasn't lawn before, so we didn't count it. But if you want some extra plants in there, fine.
Yeah, they just seemed like they'd be making more sense in that area. Yeah. So thank you. And then I wasn't sure what was going on with your pool fence. It looks like it's running across and connecting to another property.
So that's the neighbor's pool fence, and there's some 15-foot easements on each side of this lot line that they have some common connections with. So the Hineses, my understanding, are, you know, in discussions with the neighbor to just have this be a common, instead of having 2 fences next to each other, to share that pool fence.
I mean, technically we are only having the project under this one map and parcel. I mean, I know it's a fence, but I don't know if what the commission feels about that.
We cannot approve a fence on somebody else's property, but we certainly can approve it up to the property line. And if he reaches an agreement with his neighbor, that's up to them.
Right.
Isn't that a building department decision too? It's I think the building department would have to sign off on incorporating the existing fence to suffice to meet these pool requirements.
I think Larry's right.
Yeah, I just don't, I'm not comfortable with it that way. I think you have to have the fence, whatever you're asking for us to be reviewed on the parcel that we're discussing. And later on, if you need to make a revision or something, come back.
What if the neighbor consents in writing, just grants a quasi easement for the fence to serve that purpose?
The neighbor has concurred, so that would not be an issue.
We just have to approve only the fence on this property, Darcy. We cannot approve a fence on the other property. So I'd submit a revised plan. And from an environmental point of view, it doesn't make a lot of difference. It's a building department issue, as Larry correctly says. So just submit a revised plan with the plantings as you discussed, and showing the fence ending at the property line.
Yeah.
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
That'd be fine.
Yep.
So I can see them hitting a glitch with the building department of not having a closed fence system.
Right.
So if the neighbor came to you for a 8-foot section of fence in a disturbed open area, is that something that you could have just signed off on?
Well, the fence is in the 50-foot buffer. I don't have my guidelines in front of me.
Part is in the 50s and part is close to the salt marsh.
Or you could make it a condition that the neighbor submitted his or her written approval before the order is released.
Yeah. And we should be being this close to the wetlands and everything, they're agreeing to the 6-inch clearance under it, or?
The gaps, the critter gaps in some places.
Yeah.
So we will work with the owners to either have, in revising our plan, getting that into you, we will work with the owners to either have correspondence from the neighbor that it's okay, or understand that we can't show this until we do, so that you can issue an order.
Yes.
Okay.
Along with the planting changes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Larry, do you have
No, I think it's been adequately covered. I don't need to repeat anything.
Okay. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None? Let me try this. If I miss anything, just remind me. Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to the receipt of a revised plan showing the revised mitigation planting area and with some height complexity as what Pete was mentioning? And we need the neighbor's approval for the fence. Anything else?
I thought, Darcy, what about moving those plantings that Darcy mentioned?
I think he covered that in that statement.
He covered that, but I don't, we can't have a motion. I feel uncomfortable when we do with just stating whatever Pete said, because what Pete is saying, he wants is several trees so when you say whatever Pete says, I need to have a motion that says how many trees. It all comes back down to me. I don't know how you can put like a grove of trees in that small of a mitigation amount. So could we just get like
3?
3 seats?
I saw Pete's hands 3.
Great, thank you. We have to have specific motions here.
So moved.
Roll call.
Second.
Roll call. George.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Luis.
She's
Sorry, no.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Moran.
Aye.
Zampu.
Aye.
That motion carries, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, everybody.
We have one.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
We have one continuance. Helen Hughes to construct and maintain fixed piers, ramps, and floats at 94 Long Beach Road, Centerview, as shown on the Assessors Map 206, parcel 007. This is a continuance from November the 8th. The quorum is every commissioner. There is a revised plan dated November the 9th, so you should be looking at that. Dan.
Good evening, Chairman Lee. For the record, Dan Ojala, Downkeep Engineering. I'll try and be quick with the lateness of the hour here. This was one that we looked at. I think I would generally characterize it as everyone was fairly comfortable with it, but we wanted to hear from Waterways. This is the site overview. It's one of these ones on Long Beach Road, and there's a fairly short pier where the boat grounds out at low tide, and so the owner's simply requesting to push it out a little bit so he doesn't ground out, and also to have the 12 inches under the prop. We went out a little bit further than Waterways was comfortable with, so we had some back and forth with them, and we ended up pulling it back 3 feet so that the prop just has the 1 foot underneath the bottom, and they begrudgingly approved it. Again, it's a bit of a dead end. It's not a high use area, and this float is flexible. And you have 45 feet from its current location. It was a little further away, and it's been moved many other places. It's just an anchored float system that could go just about anywhere. So again, this is within 300 and so feet of the end of this little no-name stub off Centerville River. We think it's a good project. It's an existing license, extending it out. He's got a fairly good sized regulator. It's a 26 foot with a couple of Yamahas on it. So Waterways did approve it, and I think that was discussed pretty heavily at the last one. But if anything else you'd like to discuss, I'd be glad to go over it with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. John?
Dan, as I was out there, I think I saw, or let me just ask you directly, is there a proposed use of personal watercraft at this location?
I do not know the answer to that. I do not know. He didn't ask me for a jet ski lift or anything. So
it looks like there was a jet ski float thingamajiggy sitting next to the garage, if I saw it correctly. And that concerned me because I had a note from the earlier conversation about the use of personal watercrafts out there. If we approve this, and I certainly think that we ought to spec the boat and say no other boat is allowed without coming back here, because personal watercraft do have a different impact in the area. So that was one concern. The other question I had is that the last time we looked at that, there were at least 3 variances being requested. Is that still the case, Dan? Just point out to the commission what variances are required to approve this.
Yeah, so because it's a compact site, there were a couple of requirements. We went through it with a notice there. Let me see, we conform to the water depth for low value shellfish, which I think everyone concurs. Shellfish didn't have it. Let me see. So the channel, there's no real marked channel here, but to the extent that there was some, I guess that would be, that could be a variance. You like to be 35 feet off it. And, you know, there's a deep area, you know, pretty close to this boat. But again, I wouldn't characterize it as a big navigational waterway. It was dredged, but it's a dead end. So that would be under J2. So let me see.
The other one is J4.
Thank you.
J4 is
the water increases.
Is 20% of the width of the linear waterway.
Okay. Yeah.
And then it's L.
The center of the lot, yeah.
Yeah, and this is where it's always been. It's just, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to disturb. There's a low salt marsh over here. This is a high marsh behind a wall, just some high tide bush, very little impact because it's already there. If we go moving it, I think it would be much more impactful to the environment. So would respectfully request that it be left in its current position. So I think that one is a reasonable request.
I just think, the only reason I asked it is just for the record, we need to, for the commission to understand where it is granting a variances. That's all. And I think you have covered it.
And the boat is the regulator 26-footer.
Right.
So, George.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, two things. One, I assume that now you've pulled it back in 3 feet. You still got plenty of water there. It looks like, Dan.
Couple extra inches at the float, so where the motors are out another couple feet. Yeah,
Yep.
just enough. Yep.
Okay, good. And John, just so you know, it was when I was still in business, we pulled those jet skis off of his float, and they've been sitting by the garage there ever since.
Okay.
So I don't think they're going back in, but I don't think it's a bad idea to make that a condition.
Thanks, George.
Luis.
Yeah, I just was going to say that the question of personal watercraft came up at our very first hearing on this proposal. So we should have a definitive answer. I mean, they may not have been used as far as we know, but it would be good to have some sort of official answer on that.
Well, could we put in the order of conditions, Darcy, that the boat spec is this, no other boats are, it's in the stated language, no other boats allowed without prior approval of the commission, and that's sort of standard?
Yeah, because when the one boat is spec, that's all that's supposed to be on that dock. So.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, we're very comfortable with that. There was no ask for them, so that's perfectly fine.
Are you all set, Luis?
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioner? Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None? Could I have a motion to approve this project with the revised plan dated November the 9th? And this approval is including those 3 variances requested under the Chapter 703. That's 4J2, J4, and L. And the pier is subject to a 12-inch roof. And this is a approval for the regulator 26-footer. And will be no personal craft like jet ski. And if that's the regulator 26 is the only one on this pier.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Moran.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you
very much
Good
for
luck.
your time. Appreciate it.
We got 4 certificates of compliance. Joseph and Savannah Kemper, SE3-5803, Town of Barnstable, Marine Environmental Affair, SE3-4712, Town of Barnstable, Marine and Environmental Affair, SE3-4713, Cape Beach House LLC, SE3-5468. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Moran.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. That's unanimous.
Our next hearing is December the 13th, and that's at 3 o'clock. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Moran.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
That's unanimous. We're adjourned at 9:10.
Good night.